All right, I wanted to make this video. This is bus wiring 101. A lot of people want to rewire their buses when they get them or at some point in their build, and I think it is the right way to do it. There's a lot of old technology, old fuse blocks, stuff like that. You can reuse them. They're still replaceable, but for the sake of, you know, consolidating your wiring and separating 12 volt from 24 volt or 48 and 120, I like to know that I've had my hands on everything in the bus and understand each system and how it operates. So fortunately for me, I've rewired some cars and I understand circuitry to a good enough extent. But for some people who are electronically challenged but want to do this, there are simpler ways to at least get your feet wet to reduce the amount of wiring that you have to deal with. So what I like to do, I have a Bluebird International bus, and you can pull schematics from the manufacturer. I know Thomas is really good about it, but I have a Bluebird body, so I can find the master schematic. The thing about the master schematic is it will only give you the amount of fuse blocks or terminals or hot bars or whatever you want to call them. It'll only give you the printout, at least for mine, it's a 96 build year. It'll only give me the printout for the minimum amount of options that I can find. This is like just Google searching to get a basic idea. So there may be some extra ones in there, and that's where the old trial by elimination system works really well, which again, I still do just because I want to know where everything goes. So where I start is not here. I gotta be careful, damn iPhone. New iPhone has the button on the bottom down here where if you hit it, it goes bloop and stops recording. So you can start here, but that's gonna be like, oh God, that's so much. And again, like I wanna get some of this stuff out of there. The hot bars I can keep and the terminal ends and stuff I can keep, but the terminal strips. But it'd be nice to simplify this because then I can use this space from here back for something else if I decide to. And, you know, custom switch panel, all that jazz. Anyways, you can start here. I don't like to start here. I like to start at the farthest wire away, which on this bus was actually run up and all the way around to the back and all the way over to here, and that was for my clearance lights. Those are here, right here. I've already tied them up. Anyways, imagine these two harnesses go together, right? This was originally one harness, bloop, like that. So just keep that in mind. I go to the back. I go to the farthest point away, and I look at, okay, I have yellow and black for one flasher, yellow for the other. I run that over, and then I have black and yellow, and I think straight black, I don't know. And then my grounds, obviously my grounds are just terminaled out per fixture, so that's fine. I can get rid of those, right? But those are tied to my clearance light harness. See, here's the wire that used to run all the way around, actually. It's right there, too. I can get rid of those. Let's not talk about those first. Let's talk about stuff we absolutely don't need because I want to keep this wiring here in case I want to wire something up, right? So let's say here's my emergency, sorry it's so dark, but here's my emergency exit door ends. I disconnected that. I run that up. I trace the wires. I label my wires. Hard to see, but rear exit wires. So I label those because I'm going to cut them so I can run the rest of the harness out, right? So I run that out. I run that out. I run that out. I catch another piece of the circuit. What's that for? It's tied into my exit hatch. Turns out that all your exit hatches should be run on the same circuit, right? And I'll explain that. Here's the other end of the wires that I cut. Same thing, labeled them, rear exit hatches. So when I'm running this wiring out, I'm pulling it out of this harness, obviously, the stuff that I still want to keep. I pull it out of that harness, and then I find, oh, boop, there it is. It's labeled, it's tied in with that original circuit. And here's the other two from that circuit as well, which is probably one for the buzzer, and then the other one's probably a ground. So I run that out, run that out, run that out. I find the second one somewhere in here, bam, label it, run it out, run it out, run it out. And then I get it all the way up to where the harness joints. And if your bus is like mine, or I don't know about the newer buses, but they have one of these, I'm not going to keep this. Some people like to keep it. It's kind of cool. If I do keep it, I'll just put it not connected to any lights because it's fun. I mean, you know, a good safety check on the road is just to check all your hazards and your lights anyway. I don't know that I need bulb indicators. If my lights are out, my lights are out, right? Anyways, so I'm going to trace it all the way up to where it joints, right? And then, which I haven't gotten there yet, what I'll do is I'll slice this up to get access to both sides of this, figure out what goes into here, to this. And here's like the simplicity of the front harness is ridiculous, right? The front upper harness. These are literally your two flasher lights. This short end and this short end are your other upper flasher lights. And that should be everything that's up there, with the exception of your clearance lights, right? So I know it sounds like a lot, but it's actually really simple. And then you can get rid of most of this stuff. You just need to figure out what loops up and loops back. You need to figure out what to get rid of, where to run it, and then finally, the final step is where does it run to, right? So I can see right here, the pink and whatever wires, pink and black and nonsense wires. I know that those run up into one of those blocks, but because my schematic doesn't tell me exactly where it runs to, even though it might, I just haven't looked that hard yet. If my schematic doesn't tell me exactly where it runs to, what I will likely do is figure out where it goes into here, right? Because we can see that the main harness traces up somewhere into these blocks. Also, this is battery hot stuff, so you want to turn your battery disconnect off, which I haven't done yet, but I'm going to. You run this up to wherever it lands, and then what I like to do is give myself, let's say the pink one is the one I'm looking for. What I like to do is give myself back to the next connection point, right? I'm actually guessing it's going to be this one right here because these are my dome light wires too. Anyways, I'm going to run it to the last connection point, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip it either here or I'm going to snip it back here. I'm going to label both ends of it, and the opposite side of that should run to the switch or should run to 12-volt power. Either way, whatever's feeding that circuit is going to be on the other side of that line, so I know that if I have to redesign it or if I want to use the existing stuff that's in here, I know what the power is coming from and where it's going to. So I figure out where it's coming from based on where it's going to, right? And it's not really that complicated. So it is a lot, like it's a big annoyance, but in order to know for sure, it's the only real way to do it. Is it time consuming? Yes. Is it annoying? Yes. Does it seem like a lot? Absolutely. Is it that hard? Not necessarily. What we're dealing with is low voltage stuff here. And as long as it's within the body harness of the bus, you run a very low risk of cutting something or disconnecting something that will limit the bus from running. And that's kind of going to be my final point, right? If you need to cut wires and you're not 100% sure if they go to relays or solenoids or anything like that, where it's like, oh, I don't understand what this box does, and you snip something, right? This is probably important. Actually, I think it might be emergency exit stuff, but it's probably important because it's a relay and it looks like red wires, and red wires usually mean power. So, you know, if you have to snip something like that, turn your battery disconnect back on and see if your bus will start. And if it doesn't, then reconnect that wire and see if your bus will start. Not that hard. If you mess something up, at least you know you can correct it quickly. And again, most of this stuff besides the battery hot bars straight off the battery, you know, you don't run a risk. You could shock yourself a couple times, but like you're not going to triple zap yourself as long as there's not a whole lot of amps getting put out. So insulated tools, insulated handles, and, you know, watch where metal on metal contacts, and hopefully at the worst, you just blow a fuse and you don't disable your bus. So hopefully this is helpful. I mean, again, very simply explained, find where the wire goes to, what is it powering, run it forward, separate it from the stuff you know you want to keep or are going to replace in my instance. You know you want to keep, run it forward, figure out where it lands. If you can tie stuff up like I have, right? I know that these are my driver and passenger side fans. These are my clearance lights and my mirror heaters. My gray wire for sure, I already know I have 2 strings of dome lights in this bus, so my gray wires are going to be my dome lights. I'm going to tie those all up as close to the base station as I can, and then when I decide if I want to keep my factory Bluebird switch panel, right, which would be pretty cool, or if I don't want to keep the switch panel but I want to keep the switches, at least I know how they're wired, where they're wired, and this is kind of stage 2 separation over here. As long as I have everything labeled out, I can then go further into here and figure out how I want to reorganize it, and if I want to retain any factory items or if I want to delete any factory items. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Also, one more final note here. If you have ground straps and stuff, just keep your ground straps, right? Like everything on buses usually is like power in, and then the ground is just chassis grounded somewhere. Keep the ground straps, whatever. Got to reuse them, might as well. They screw into the lights and they were designed to do that. So, and again, the reason I'm doing this, I'm going to delete my rear flashers, and then I will, because I have a rear deck here, I'll delete my rear flashers. I'm going to put something in here. I may put a plate or a couple sets of speakers in there. My clearance lights need to actually come out to here to mount up to where those clearance lights went. And then, you know, my taillights and stuff can stay the same. On the front, I'm probably going to put my upper turn signals and turn those into blinkers. And then I have on this International, if I turn this light on, I don't know how well you can see, but I have arrow turn signals here. So what I'd like to do is swap those out to my amber turns up there, because that is legal. And then I'll use some POR or PQR, whatever those aircraft grade lights are. I'll put a couple spotlights right there, one on each side. So yeah, that's the reason I'm doing this, but your mileage may vary. Good luck. Take your time. Also, have a notebook and some coffee, because you're going to be in here for a while. Yay!